And the only thing that they can do when the ANC is losing traction is to side with people or say things that they think that the people will make sure that they vote them back again. If you are mentally stable, I don't think you should be voting the ANC the next coming elections, because obviously you have seen for the past 30 years, the ANC was never on the side of South African. The ANC wanted to destroy everything. The ANC wanted to feed their own desires and their pockets to be full in order for their families and generations to come to have something to fall back on. But you, as Nombulelo, as Liselo somewhere, your family is still going to struggle for the next coming year, are occupying land. And we know that the EFF also has a tendency of saying that if there is no one in that land, you need to occupy land. They have opened the floods of the evil to occupy any land. And obviously, when this land is occupied, even if it's privately owned, it's going to take years for you to fight for that land, because obviously we've got these human rights organizations that have got enough money to take these people to court.
When to do these things in their own countries, why can't they open their churches in Zimbabwe? Why can't they do this? Why can't they do this in Zimbabwe? So these are things that we don't understand in our country. We will never allow this. Never. We will never allow this. We will never allow this. These mixing structures, we will never allow this nonsense. So we are taking down this church. There it is. You come and do shrines here. You are doing offerings here. Look at what these people are doing here in this country. Look at what these people are doing in this country. These are shrines. They are offering in our own country. They are doing offerings in our own country. You can't do an offering for your own ancestors there in Zimbabwe. Who said these people must come and do this thing here? Look. We will never allow this. This is our country.
Before we examine recent controversies, let us be clear about what our Constitution actually guarantees. Section 15 of the Constitution's Bill of Rights states unequivocally, everyone has the right to freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, and opinion. This is one of the most fundamental rights in our democracy. However, this freedom comes with important caveats. Religious observances may be conducted at state or state-aided institutions, provided that those observances follow rules made by the appropriate public authorities and they are conducted on an equitable basis. The Constitution also makes clear that recognition of religious practices must be consistent with this section and the other provisions of the Constitution. Crucially, Section 36 of the Constitution allows for the limitation of rights only in terms of law of general application, to the extent that the limitation is reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society based on human dignity, equality, and freedom. What this means in practical terms is simple. While everyone has the right to worship freely, this right must be exercised within the framework of existing laws. No constitutional right, including freedom of religion, is absolute or exempt from lawful regulation. Now, let's address today's central question. What happens when religious practice conflicts with immigration law, municipal regulations, and basic legal compliance? The recent incident involving Zimbabwean nationals conducting religious activities has sparked heated debate. But let's be clear about what actually transpired. The core issue was never about preventing these individuals from practicing their faith. The argument centered on legal status and proper documentation. Consider this perspective. If you are an undocumented immigrant, regardless of your nationality, You cannot simply invoke religious freedom as a shield against immigration law. This is not persecution. This is basic legal compliance that every sovereign nation expects and enforces. To put this in context, imagine South African citizens crossing into Zimbabwe illegally and establishing religious gatherings without proper documentation or permits. How would that be received? The answer is obvious. It would be considered a violation of Zimbabwean sovereignty and law. Unfortunately, this case is not isolated. We've observed a troubling pattern of organizations operating outside the law while claiming religious or charitable purposes. Take the case of Favors Cathedral Church, which has been operating without proper municipal permits. Reports indicate that this establishment has been illegally connecting to municipal water and electricity services, essentially stealing from public resources that belong to all South Africans.
So this morning we joined Councillor Rakabe. We're at the Favors Cathedral Church, which is corner of WF Ngomo and Beitekant. As Councillor has said, we've uncovered things that should never be uncovered in the church. We have disconnected their water because they've breached their water. We have disconnected electricity because they've breached. These people have been taken to court, and their matter is with the High Court. But while we are busy, with the High Court process, they have extended here. If you see the structures at the back and the structure behind us, these are not approved by the city of Tshwane. And there was a complication because the person who's been running this church has been running this church for a number of years, but it's not the owner. So we're busy now locating the owner while we're dealing with the bishop who's been occupying, but not only occupying, busy with illegal activities in the church. I don't know, residents of Tshwane, if the bishops of churches can stoop so low to criminality, how much more about the criminals that we deal with in the streets? So this church now, the colleagues are busy finalizing the paperwork. We are closing down this church. If you look at the capacity of the church, you will see that they're supposed to apply for job services every time there's church here, so that there's no accidents that cannot be prevented. They must actually, in terms of the capacity, they must have ambulances on site every time they hold the church because of the size of the capacity. But they've not been doing that. I don't know the arrogance of church leaders thinking they can get away with lawlessness as well. So we're appealing not only to business, not only to residents, but these are leaders of society. Faith-based organization leaders are leaders of society. They must do the right thing as well. So we are closing this down. So the people who are members of this church, they must understand that they are not allowed to congregate here until the city opens up. But I think, Councillor Rakabe, this is one of the cases that you have identified to say the city has been turning a blind eye. Can we finally do something? And I think the work must continue, and we'll continue to monitor, especially in instances. So thank you so much.
Come here, son. Come here. Come here. I want to ask you questions, and I need answers. Why are you here in our country? Why are you in our country?
We come like from that side, we have a lot of political issue.
Okay, which country are you coming from?
From Ethiopia.
Okay. You left your country because of there's wars, there's anything. Yes. Are you refugees?
Yes.
What does the Refugee Act say when it comes to migration?
Shut up!
What does it say? The reason why we are doing this, we want you guys to understand why we are doing this in our country. And we are helping you so that you can go back and fight your country's laws and fight for your freedom. So we fought for this country. You were not present when some of our brothers were dying. There were bloodshed happening here. Do you know about it? People were burned. A lot of things were happening. You were in your country, relax. While we fighting, we're now in our democratic dispensation where we should enjoy it. You come, you intervene, you take over what belongs to us. I'm going back to the same question. You said you are refugees. What does the Refugee Act say when it comes to migration?
The refugee give us paper when you come here to this country. When you give us paper, we have tried to survive our food. You understand? We are not coming to take over your country or what. We are trying to survive our food because we are not doing crimes. We are not selling drugs. We are not stealing. We are trying to get for our food. You understand me? And our families there is no work. You understand me? Is a problem. Okay. So we have to try to get something.
I understand what you are saying. You're trying to get food from another country because you are refugees. Obviously, we should have refugee camps in our country. The Refugee Act says you must migrate to a nearest country. You're coming from Ethiopia. Which is your nearest country in Ethiopia? Kenya. Why didn't you go to Kenya?
Kenya was this problem.
Whoa. You stop it from there. It doesn't matter. That's not our problem. There's so many countries next to Ethiopia. Besides Kenya, what is another nearest country?
It's Somalia.
It's Somalia. So why didn't you go to Somalia? Look, my friend, I want you. No,
starting to be dangerous.
Yeah, look,
Although starting to be dangerous. This guy, they have guns. No, that's all right. That's one of these guys.
Commander, the Refugee Act says when you migrate, that is in the Convention of 1951. It said you migrate in your nearest country. You mentioned Kenya, you mentioned Somalia. Why are you coming in South Africa? Because South Africa is far from where your nearest country is. It is.
South Africa is free country.
Look, no. Yeah. You know why you are in South Africa? You're taking chances because of our country's lawlessness. Our country is not governed properly. Now we are telling you that you need to go back to your countries and fix your countries and fight for what you're fighting for. You come here, you're carrying the guns, it comes to an end. Another thing I want to tell you guys, you are not permitted to own spaza shops. In terms of Immigration Act number 13 of 2002, Section 15 and Section 19, it simply says spaza shops, selling of veggies, it only reserved for South African. What permits you to own the spaza shop? You can't. You must know from today. You need to leave, brother. The time is over for you. We have had enough about you. You were carrying guns here. And in most of cases, what I've heard, nationally, there was one of your guys who was saying that you guys, you're going to bring more illegal foreigners in our country, and then you're going to own our businesses by force. Failure to do so, you're going to fight. So it's not going to happen here. We're going to die. We are prepared to die for this country. Because we fought for this country. We didn't fight for you to come and do as you please. You're threatening our children. Today, look, we know what you are doing with your country. With our country. You're selling drugs in your countries. In those spaza shops. We know very well. You're sleeping with our children purposely to give them pregnancy so that you can have citizenship here. It must come to an end. You guys must understand. Go back and fight your laws. Go back and fight for your freedom. We don't care what is happening in your country. We've got our own issues here.
We appreciate that.
You need to go. You need to go. Because you don't even know the immigration.
Sure.
You don't even know the Refugee Act.
I appreciate serious, but no one tell us this way.
You know why? You know why? Because you know that South Africa is lawlessness. That is why you don't even want to read our laws. You don't read our laws because some of your friends tell you that it's easy to be in South Africa. So, brothers, it's about time.
Thank you, serious.
This is our freedom we fought for. You see those kids? We're fighting for them now. Not for you, for your own kids. Because you're busy dating our children, you give them that poisonous food, killing our young stars. Pregnant them just like that, so that you can have a citizenship you can own. We are watching you. Right. Operation Tutula is here to stay, and then mind you, come to Israel. We're not going to give you a space. You'll pee everywhere where you go. When you sit in a toilet, you see us. It's enough now.